Welcome back to Drive Home Reviews, coming to you from beautiful Eagle River, Alaska, or as we have come to call it, God's Ashtray. Yes, we are experiencing a record-breaking heat wave, and yes, we do have heat waves in Alaska, coupled with raging forest fires, over 100 of them currently, which is making the air just smell like you just smoked 100 packs of cigarettes. So it has been a real ball here the last couple of weeks. But into this heat is dropped a little bit of summer fun, and that is the latest offering from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Spider-Man Far From Home. So let's forget our troubles and talk a little bit about this charming little movie. This movie had a hard act to follow. It was in a very difficult position. One, it had to be a sequel to a movie that was not bad, not terrible by any stretch of the imagination, but was not everything it could have been. You know, a fairly mundane teenage superhero offering that didn't feel really like it was making use of the fact that they had just regained use of the character of Spider-Man, who, again, this is just, just to reiterate, Spider-Man is not a bit player in the Marvel Universe. He is their signature guy. You know, he's their Superman and Batman, really. Coupled with that, it had to be a follow-up, a direct follow-up to one of the biggest film Marvel has ever done, with some of the biggest consequences. The fallout of Endgame, the return of everybody who was wiped out in the snap, which they call the blip, which I didn't really like. I like a better one. It's called the snap for some reason. And what that kind of means for the people who were either gone or the ones who came back and all that. So it had to kind of follow that up and also try to get us excited for the next round of Marvel films, whatever they may be. We know a Doctor Strange sequel is coming up, definitely a lot more Black Panther films, another Guardians of the Galaxy. So there's a lot on this little movie's plate. A lot it had to do, and pile then more onto that and say that the next thing it had to do was tell a interesting, fun, and inventive story in its own right. So a lot going on for this little movie that could, and the question we have to ask, pardon me, is how'd they do? And all parts taken into consideration, all things being equal, all of that stuff I just brought up being taken into consideration, the grand answer is I think they did pretty well. I don't think they did perfect, but I think they did a pretty good job. It's an enjoyable movie, and really any faults with it are more just faults of interpretation than they are with what the film actually does. And by interpretation, I mean that, again, with Spider-Man, you have you have the most popular and important character in Marvel, the one with the biggest fan base, the one that's already had 2 amazing movies done about it, i.e. Spider-Man 1 and 2, the Sam Raimi films. So a lot of expectation for the characters, a lot of expectation for, the various interpretations of the character. And so that's always another chain around its neck, is that, especially for those of us who were there at the height of Spider-Man 1 and 2, and just seeing how amazing those films are and how well they've held up, to start asking the question of, well, these films aren't those. And I think, so yeah, anyway, I got off on a tangent there. But I think all in all, this movie does a pretty good job with what it wants to set out to be. So let's just talk about bits and pieces here. So of course, the cast again are all back, and they're all once again very enjoyable. A very nice ensemble cast. One of the better kind of secondary casts I think that Marvel has. You know, the secondary characters, the supporting players. I think a really good, tight-knit little group, headed by Tom Holland, who has really grown into the role of Spider-Man and Peter Parker. I think he does a really neat job with the MCU's version of the character. But again, here's where the thing of interpretation comes in. And I brought this up when I reviewed the original Spider-Man Homecoming film. And that is, I think Holland is a good enough actor, and I think his portrayal of Spider-Man is strong enough. I think his supporting cast is strong enough. I wish they'd give him a little bit more to chew on. I feel like Marvel has kind of pigeonholed their Spider-Man series into just another, I don't want to say waste of time, but these films don't come off as epic, I think, as they should for Spider-Man, especially when you consider what they had to do to get Spider-Man back into their rotation. It never feels like they're really giving him a chance to tackle with the bigger problems, the bigger ideas that the Spider-Man character is always so good at conveying. They give him hints, and when they allow him to do it, and when they allow the script to do it, it's really good. And he's really good in it. But they don't commit enough of their time. For instance, the major conflict in this... Sorry, I'm sweating all over the place. I feel like I'm back in Tennessee. The major conflict here is that with, I'm going to say spoiler alert, even though I don't think this is. Everybody knows this by now. With the death of Tony Stark, Iron Man in Avengers Endgame, all eyes are kind of cast at Peter, or Spider-Man, to kind of take up that mantle, to kind of take the steps to be the next Iron Man. And he's torn between that and wanting to tell his female friend MJ, not Mary Jane, but MJ, played by Zoldana, that he likes her. So it's this question of, once again, responsibility or the normal life that has always been the backbone of the Spider-Man character. Good, great, fine. But it never feels like that thread, that through line is really given enough screen time. Or it just didn't feel like it was handled with the severity of a Spider-Man story. The thing with a Spider-Man story, and what has made Spider-Man so endearing to so many fans for so long, especially teenagers, is that all of his problems feel like end-of-the-world problems. Seriously, if you go and look at the Spider-Man comics, and I have, his problems, a lot of them are honestly not that bad in a lot of cases. Oh, he has trouble with his love life. Do you know how many hot women Peter Parker has fucked in the comics? I mean, and you're telling me he has trouble with his love life? Seems like he's beating the women off with a stick. But the way it's presented through his eyes and all that, it feels like a breakup with the latest girlfriend is a world-ending catastrophe. And it does, and I'm sorry, I know that's dumb, but I think Spider-Man needs that touch of melodrama. That it makes the mundane issues that we face feel like big problems. And why that translates is because to all of us, and young people especially, but to anyone, our problems are important to us. They may seem from the outside like they're trivial or, not a big deal, but when you're going through it, everything from a horrible loss in the family thing to the breakup of a relationship or something, to us, to the person going through it, it feels terrible and like the end of the world. But to onlookers, it feels like, oh, that's nothing. Why are you whining? Shut up. And I don't feel like this version of Spider-Man has ever been given that truly life or death, that if this doesn't happen, I have failed, my life is ruined, I've let everybody down. He comes off a little bit too much like a young adult fiction hero. A bit whiny, a bit naive, which is not bad. It's not a bad thing for his character, but it doesn't give the character in the situations he's in the gravitas that to him they should have. Whether or not the fact that he won't get to tell Zeldana there that he is deeply in love with her or not, it doesn't give that the weight that it feels like it should have. All right, the situation's handled too lightly for me. Again, I like my Spider-Man melodramatic. Now, again, does that take away from the good things in the movie? No, it doesn't. Again, the cast is fantastic. Holland just has a lot of charm and a really good turn as Peter Parker. He and Zeldana have really fun chemistry, and I like that a lot of his supporting players get a little bit more screen time and kind of flush themselves out a little bit. The young lady playing Betty Brant in this one, or Bryant, who is just a face on the TV screen, really in Homecoming, now is actually in there and actually has a part to play. Here's something. So I just bitched about everything that I don't feel these Spider-Man movies do well. Let me tell you about something I feel these Spider-Man movies do better than I think a lot of the Marvel Universe and maybe even the original Spider-Man films. And that is, they do an outstanding job reimagining his rogues gallery, not just for modern times, but to fit with the ever-changing landscape of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. One of the great things about the Marvel Cinematic Universe is that in each successive movie, you kind of get to see the fallout of the actions of the previous film. Usually it's just, oh, big battle, it's over, hooray, we win. Now you get to almost immediately follow up and go, yeah, but. And they've done a great job of redesigning Spider-Man's foes around this changing world. The Vulture in the last one actually being a guy who picks over the battle scenes and picks up the discard technology. Brilliant. And they do the same thing with Mysterio here. Mysterio in the comics, a former movie special effects artist who uses special effects to, commit crimes, become a supervillain. Well, here he is a former Stark employee who, along with other disgruntled Stark employees, come together to kind of create this new image. It's vaguely unclear as to why, other than to kind of get recognition. Their motives as to why they're doing all this is not incredibly clear. So that is a little bit of a problem. But I like the way they even come up with fun ways to explain the dome, the fishbowl that Mysterio wears on his head, I will say this. So while I give it praise, I like the new reimagined Mysterio, and they do some fun things with his abilities. They do a lot of fun things with Spider-Man's abilities, too. In terms of casting, Jake Gyllenhaal, who plays Mysterio, does a pretty decent job, but I wasn't sold on him. It wasn't a great role. And what I mean by that is almost any other character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, just about. I can't think of any exceptions that come to my mind right now. After seeing the movie, you go, I can't think of anybody else playing that part. That had to be that person. When I think of Michael Keaton as the Vulture, or I think of Tom Hiddleston as Loki, or even Chris Evans as Captain America, or any of those, I can't think of anybody else playing those roles now. This one, I can think of a lot of people who could have played that role. I don't feel like Gyllenhaal was either, I don't think he was either given a chance, or he just isn't that great an actor to really fill the role with a charisma that is strictly his, Here's another thing, another nitpick. I'm nitpicking this movie a lot. I'm making it sound like I don't like it, but I did like it. It's just these are the things that I kind of want to pick at a bit. In that, going back to what I was talking about in terms of following through with a plot point or committing to a plot point, one of the plot points here, for one reason or another, is that for some reason his spider sense, or his Peter tingle as they call it, which is funny, it's a running joke, isn't working. And this is a big thing because the spider sense is what helps him determine what's real and what's not when he's fighting someone like Mysterio, the Master of Illusion. Sorry, again, sweating a lot. So the fact that his spider sense isn't working for whatever reason, and they never really give us a good reason as to why, is not really fully explored. It's like offhandedly kind of thrown out there. They make some mention of it, and then at the very end when he gets it back and dodges all of these things, it's supposed to be this big moment of him kind of becoming the hero and stepping up and all that, but because they didn't set up what was causing it to fluctuate, him being a bit concerned that it wasn't happening, it doesn't feel like the big moment it's supposed to. Again, I'm bitching and moaning about this a lot. I'm picking out a lot of nitpicks, so it's making it sound like I didn't like this movie. So I'm sorry about that, because I did like this movie. Some things about it were just fantastic. The climactic battle scene is outstanding, really good. Makes really fun use of both Mysterio and Spider-Man's abilities. Yeah, it's just really well staged, really well choreographed, great directing, and a lot of fun just in it. I gotta say, the mid-credit sequence in this one of the best they've ever done. This was a holy fucking shit mid-credit sequence, a kind that just makes you go, is the third one out yet? Why isn't the third one out yet? And again, spoiler alert, I'm throwing this up in case you haven't seen it, but by the time these air, you should have seen this. Fucking J. Jonah Jameson, J.K. Sims is back in the house. Fuck yes. I nearly pissed myself when I saw that. Man, that was fucking awesome. And obviously because he passed away, we can't have any more Stan Lee cameos, so I understand that. But if you can't have a Stan Lee cameo, J. Jonah Jameson cameo by J.K. Sims, next best fucking thing. And the bomb that's dropped in that credit sequence is so good. So yeah, that was worth the price of admission almost on its own. I also think there's some really cute stuff. Again, I mentioned the great chemistry between Tom Holland and Zaldana there. They have really cute moments that genuinely feel like two teenagers kind of admitting they like each other. It's really cute and feels very natural. Their first kiss, and it's like that's adorable. I like that. I like that a lot. It felt like it felt real. So before I sign off with final grade and all that, I'm just going to say I'm looking forward to where this series goes, and I'm still going to throw it out there. Tom Holland has said he wants it. They kind of debunked it in this one. I know it was a big teaser in the trailers, but I knew they were going to debunk it once I knew Mysterio was the villain. But I am still begging Marvel, Disney, we need a live-action Spider-Verse. You have got to get Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield, and Tobey Maguire together. You got to do it, man. You've just got to fucking do it. Please make it happen. All right? Please make it happen. So that's all I'm going to say. I think it was a good one. So final grade for Spider-Man Far From Home, I'm going to go a B+ on this one. I think it was a good one to take on after Endgame. They did a lot of good things with it. Still missing that really raw emotion that I want in a Spider-Man movie, but you know, if I want that, I guess I can go back and watch Spider-Man 1 and 2. You know, this is a new Spider-Man. Oh, one other thing I really liked. In terms of interpretation, I've complained a little bit about the interpretation here. But here's something I do like about this interpretation of Spider-Man, and that is one thing that's been noticeably absent from these two movies has been Uncle Ben. They've hinted at him, they've had little references to him, but he hasn't been there, and neither has the with great power comes great responsibility. And I said in my review of the first one that I felt like that was a detriment to the film. Like, that was supposed to be Spider-Man's guiding force. And I still stand by that. But I will say, excuse me, again, a lot of smoke in the air. I will say, I like the idea and the new interpretation of basically making Tony Stark the Uncle Ben for this series. That it's Tony that Peter is trying to live up to and trying to impress. Excuse me, I'm sorry. So I bitched a lot about some interpretations of this, but I'm gonna praise that interpretation. I really liked it. I think it's a neat one. Alrighty. So another one down, another one for the massive uploads I'm gonna have to do when I get back to Tennessee here in a few weeks. So if you all are having a good summer or winter whenever you're watching this, I think I might have a few more films left to go before the end of summer, but we'll see how things roll out. And as always, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.